When the world has gone bonkers, you can always count on WallStreetBets traders to find ways to print racks or light their money on fire. With no ado whatsoever, let's jump right into the mix. Boys and girl, it is my pleasure to present the Dankest trades of rocket season. Busting in the door first is a Cheeto fan by the name of Algoroth81. Joining Reddit in early 2021, Algoroth began his Reddit experience by spit posting on WallStreetBets and Dogecoin subs, but his posts were consistently removed for being worthless drivel. After spending February and March doom-scrolling the news and sharing personal insights, our guy finally pieced together some modest DD in March 2021. His evaluation of the real estate sector encouraged him to go long the companies formerly known as Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac. In 2006, buying Fannie and Freddie would be a pretty normal investment, but these companies sold control of their firms to the US government in the 2008 global financial crisis, putting them under federal conservatorship. In other words, the companies have to give profits to the government instead of shareholders, with no prospect of this changing. But this minor inconvenience did nothing to dampen Algoroth's conviction. The big dog believed this conservatorship would soon end, and that the US government would give up control of these profitable organizations, allowing shareholders to print that sweet real estate cheese once again. At the time of his posts, Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac were trading at around 193 and 187 respectively, down about 99% since 2008. With $50K on hand, our homie was able to scoop a fat stack of these companies, banking hard that the government would give the reins back to the board. Most WallStreetBets users were confused, as our man failed to provide any discernible DD as to why anything would change, with most believing the government would never give up control of one of the few ways it actually makes money. But Algoroth believed a pending Supreme Court decision would force the government's hand. Like a Mormon trying to spread the word, he made a barrage of posts that March, eagerly awaiting SCOTUS to rule on this issue in June. On April 23rd, as the fated day came closer, our man's position rose by almost 25% and became worth about $80,000. He was going into the Supreme Court locked and loaded with shares. When the big day came in June, Fannie and Freddie laid down savage facts to the justices, arguing the constant government control was whack. The justices largely agreed and ruled that the company structure was unconstitutional, but passed the buck to lower courts, leaving the companies in limbo. Over the next several months, the stock took L's, but Algoroth was unconvinced that the issue was resolved. Although he was in the red by late June, he continued to stack shares relentlessly for the next 4 years. After 4 trips around the sun, patiently building his ridiculous portfolio, Big Homie finally got some good news. In March 2024, former and future President Mango reiterated his stance that he wanted Fannie and Freddie out of conservatorship, believing the government should sell its ownership at a profit to do unspecified activity with the gains. In light of this reiterated good news for shareholders, the stock blasted up about 10% that day, and Big Dog's positions were now worth almost $150,000. But this was just the beginning. Throughout 2024, Cheeto gained ground in the polls, while stale Wonder Bread Joe Biden's approval waned, and the junior varsity backup candidate Kamala Harris's momentum flashed and burned within a week. As the Big Orange's prospects of retaking the throne rose, so too did Fannie and Freddie's prospects of wiggling out of government control. When Papa Cheeto won the big cheese in November, gains were all but assured. On January 6, 2025, Algoroth showed his monumental green. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac went to the moon as crypto meme personified Elon Musk and shitcoin minter Donald Trump prepared to share the crown, and our man's positions weighed in at a whopping $500K. With inauguration just around the corner, both stocks surged continuously as investors hoped Cheeto would tear up the conservatorship agreement and give control back to the shareholders. Our homie's portfolio was worth almost $700,000 by the big day. Our man subscribes to hedgy Bill Ackman, who believes conservatorship will end before the close of 2026. As Algoroth hangs on with diamond hands, we may yet see him driving a Lambo on his yacht. Congratulations on the thick gains, my dude. Now, let's do the sponsored segment so I can get paid. In a promotion recently extended to July 31st, the broker Moomoo is doing the largest free share offer I have ever seen. With qualifying deposits, new users in the US can unlock up to 60 free shares. Sign up, make your deposit, claim your shares in the task center, and wait for the shares to hit your account after the vesting window. Since Moomoo offers 8.1% APY on cash, The trick to working this promotion is just to leave your position as cash and collect your yield while you wait for the shares to settle. Once they're delivered, you can do whatever you want. However, I always recommend keeping something in Moomoo because existing users can collect Moo points for completing daily tasks. The Moo points can then be exchanged for vouchers that return their face value to your cash balance when you buy shares. I use Moomoo for the 3K challenge that I wish more people would watch, and I've been more than happy with their service, just not with my investing decisions. Users outside the US will still get free shares, but the number of shares will be different, so mind the screen to which you get redirected. This promotion runs until July 31st, but don't sleep on this. Use my referral so I can get paid and my children won't starve. Thank you to Moomoo for sponsoring, and now let's move on to Dank Trade number 2. Cruising into the number 2 spot is a blasphemous individual and Rivian subreddit mod named user AssHolyThanThou, who joined Reddit in late 2023. An apparent bag holder of shares of payment processor Bakkt Holdings, ticker BKKT, our man was evidently a reckless trader who was a great candidate for our favorite sub right out of the gate. As such, our homie was no stranger to swinging for the fences and believed that Rocket Labs, ticker RKLB, had a future as bright as Canis Major. On December 19th, 2023, while the broader market was green, our man was in the trenches, wondering why Rocket Labs was performing poorly. All indications pointed to literal rocket ships, but the stock continued to languish. He determined that the market was wrong about this stock and decided in February 2024 to freebase some long-term short puts at the $4 strike, expiring in January 2026. He then determined to turn around and use that premium to buy calls expiring in 11 months. This combination of selling short puts and using the premium to buy long calls would provide a dual-acting synthetic long to boost his returns on the next rocket out. There was some immediate gain as Rocket Lab gained some ground, but by March 18th, the old bag holder was sweating like a pimp in church as Rocket Lab touched down at the $4 mark once again. His fellow Rocket Labbers consoled his buyer's remorse, and by the end of the conversation, Big Homie doubled down by purchasing calls at the $4 and $5 strikes, expiring in January 2026. Throughout the summer, Rocket Lab released a slow intravenous drip of hopeful news, and the stock slowly trudged up the hill from $4 to $6, a mighty 50% climb despite the low raw numbers. Throughout the arduous march, Rocket Lab investors like AssHoly shared the good word among each other, keeping sentiment bullish. In early autumn, this pace accelerated, with the stock doubling again from $6 to $12, all on strong fundamental growth rather than baseless aping. Indeed, this was a rare breed of stock. By mid-November, our man was up thickly on his position, but any plans of selling evaporated when CEO Sir Peter Beck appeared on CNBC describing the company's growth outlook. Since Sir Peter Beck is officially a knight, it would practically be verboten to sell. In fact, Sir Peter invigorated his shareholders with fresh stamina and scared short sellers out of their boots, pushing the stock to over $18, putting our homie at a 369% damn fine gain, and the gains just kept flowing. By New Year's 2025, Rocket Lab was cruising in at close to $30. Shareholders feasted upon fine gourmet and Martian vintage. But for AssHoly, this was not the time to celebrate and become complacent. It was the time to double down. On January 24th, 2025, our holy roller rolled his positions to finance 100 calls at the $40 strike for a total of $46,000. Expiring on June 20th, these calls were about 60% out of the money. Rocket Lab would need to pull some magic to rise to such a degree, but it had done so before, and Sir Peter had plenty of magic left in his bag. Come February, with earnings on the horizon, our guy was likely rubbing his hands together, looking for some more rocket fuel. But victory is often hard won. As the days ticked by, the stock started showing red instead of green. Shareholders were taking gains. By February 27th, the value of his calls eroded 76%, leaving the big dog with a loss of about $35K. With most of his gains roasted in a bonfire of jet fuel, AssHoly was distraught. As part of his grieving process, he determined to leave Rocket Lab behind and move on to greener pastures. It was time to perform new DD. Throughout February and March, President Cheeto made disparaging comments about international trade and threatened to annex Canada, Greenland, and Panama all at the same time, resulting in market jitters. But AssHoly believed the continued drawdown in equities was overblown and that a reversal was imminent. On February 21st, the big man dropped 10 racks, a full $100,000 on in-the-money spy calls, banking on a move back up. But Cheeto doubled down his rhetoric on tariffs and warfare, sending stocks on a continued decline. Assholey remained resolute, even when down $55,000 the following week. The market was overshooting the bearish shift, and the bottom was right around the corner. Any dips in his portfolio were just pathetic attempts of unspecified globalists to drive down prices. But our brochacho received no reprieve. In an act of desperation known only to those who risk their well-being on speculative events, the unprecedented heathen tripled down with another 200 calls shortly thereafter, for a total of 400 calls costing $140,800. Yet as he stacked his calls, he was compounding regret. Since WallStreetBets apes are used to YOLOing zero DTEs with the grace of a toddler in traffic, purchasing a 40-day option felt like a Roth IRA. But instead of the gentle glide up he envisioned, SPY face-planted further and Thanos snapped all $140,000 of premium, leaving our homie with nothing but a sad Pepe and existential dread. With his gains evaporated into ether, his lamentation was absolute, as he prescribed himself shifts shoveling grease at Wendy's until age 80. Consider pulling an extra shift behind the dumpster, big dog. And now, let's feast our eyes on the dankest trader of rocket season. Sailing into the hot seat is a crypto aficionado with deep pockets who goes by the name of Theosoph Oracle, or Theosoph Oracle, something like that, who joined Reddit in May 2024. He started his Reddit career by commenting on a Bitcoin sub in late May, telling OP to think for himself in terms of his investment decisions and to not listen to random strangers on the internet. This is ironic in that on August 6th, he posted to WallStreetBets a loss of $100,000, resulting from an unspecified poor options play made by following the advice of random strangers on Reddit. 2 days later, he shared that his loss widened to $150K, making his portfolio worth negative $50,000. The only way this is possible is if he had withdrawn money at some point and then somehow took an additional L. Indeed, this is an unusual interface situation. Nonetheless, his debt to Robinhood appeared resolved after some settling of his positions. But despite his recovered account standing, Theo the Oracle was knee-deep in losses. He spent much of the summer lamenting the six-figure decay in his portfolio. As normies spent their summer drinking margaritas and sniffing coke, our man sat quietly on the sidelines in despair. By late August, his state of reflection was finally complete. He resolved to flip his game and recover his losses, turning to subreddit Race to 10 Million for inspiration. Going into the end of the summer, it was time to reinstall Robinhood. On September 20th, 2024, our man bought one single long-term out-of-the-money call on MicroStrategy at the 170 strike, paying a $3,000 premium for it. Although the contract did not expire until April, MicroStrategy quickly rose the next week to well above the Oracle's strike. The call price shot up to $5,000, and within 5 trading days, our man gained $2,000. Fine start. But he then prophesied that achieving 80 more of these trades to get back to green overall would be impossible. He'd need to aim higher, much higher, to reach a worthwhile profit zone. And if he didn't want to get dunked on in the Race to 10 Million subreddit, he'd have to put up much bigger numbers. Our man in fact became sad, for his gains could not give him what he valued most, praise from his peers. So he did what he had to do, and bought multiple deep out-of-the-money MicroStrategy calls expiring in December and April. It was time to reclaim some green and some respect. And the big dog Papa Sailor had his back. In the later months of 2024, pro-crypto Chad Donald Trump gained ground in the polls, and MicroStrategy picked up a nice fat $1.1 billion stack of Bitcoin. Shareholders fawned at the massive 18,300 Bitcoin purchase that once again knocked a bunch of hopefuls out of the 21 million club. A week later, Theo posted his gains, showing a total return of almost $50,000 on his MicroStrategy calls and a $100,000 total gain for his portfolio in the last month. As the commenters say, if it's good enough to screenshot, it's good enough to sell. But the Oracle scoffed at this lame dogma. The mad lad held on, as he had several months until expiration, during which time Sailor would probably acquire another 100,000 Bitcoin. Throughout October, MicroStrategy rode the wave higher, likely in light of Cheeto's candidacy looking like a sure victory for the self-proclaimed pro-crypto hotshot. Although Theo does not share his gains, we know that his calls continued pumping, bringing deep six-figure gains over the month. In fact, Mr. Oracle was so confident that he added some sauce by purchasing calls on MSTU, a 2x leveraged MicroStrategy ETF, which in itself is leveraging Bitcoin. To our man's delight, MicroStrategy came through bigly. During the first 3 weeks of October, MicroStrategy bulldozed from about $160 to $220 per share, a massive 37% climb, but there was more to be done. By October 29th, the stock cruised in at almost $260 as earnings leaks indicated plans to add even more Bitcoin to the balance sheet. Our man's MicroStrategy and MSTU calls went so deep in the money that you couldn't find them with a metal detector. The bombastic pump put our man up nearly $100,000 for the day, bringing his total portfolio to around $500,000. A fire burned in the Oracle's heart like a nuclear-powered ASIC miner. Avarice and covetousness took control as the starry-eyed traders started looking toward that 2 comma club. With Cheeto formally seizing rights to the crown in early November, the whole crypto community celebrated, and MicroStrategy shot up with it. On November 12th, our man proudly presented his cocktail of MicroStrategy equity and leaps, up a $250,000 gain that very day, bringing his total portfolio to more than $800,000. And of course, if you're that close to $1 million as a card-carrying member of the Race to 10 Million sub and WallStreetBets, there's no bailing out now. So our degenerate Oracle held on. His position, vulnerable to a mood swing in the crypto casino, forced him into insomnia, but with a hefty shot of NyQuil, he was able to rest. The roosters awoke him with a mighty crow, and the very next day, MicroStrategy burned another hole in the exosphere, and Theo the Oracle crossed the coveted $1 million mark. But it was not enough. Crypto was in an unparalleled bull run, and bailing just because you got another comma was no good. There was simply no stopping this train. On November 20th, MicroStrategy surged again at the opening bell, and our Mad Lad's portfolio went up more than $500,000 on the week, bringing him to a jaw-dropping total of over $1.6 million. The hotshot Oracle had done it. With the assistance of strippers, the Oracle quickly achieved post-nut clarity before his next move, which consisted of Bacardi and jet skis to celebrate the thick cheddar. When his toppy could receive no more sloppy, our homie returned to WallStreetBets for entertainment purposes and came across a MicroStrategy bear by the name of user Lures808, in which the gay bear professed that there's no such thing as a free money glitch, and he went long MicroStrategy puts. The Oracle gave a side-eye emoji and never looked back. To this day, he remains unseen at WallStreetBets. No doubt, Oracle Daddy is now cruising the coasts of Brazil with big booty mamitas with a fistful of caipirinhas. Diosaf Oracle, you have truly lived up to your name by predicting MicroStrategy's massive run, and in doing so, have achieved wealth abundant. Your future is bright, as you never need to leave your life of luxury for as long as you shall live. Please accept the crown of kings. May you wear it well.
Who wants to be king?
Thanks for watching, everyone. Don't forget to drop me a like and subscribe so that I feel the love. I'll see you in the next video.